Well, hello, welcome to my kitchen. I am going to be making, it's fall season, and I'm going to be making a homemade apple pie. My husband and his friend, this is their favorite pie, so I'm actually making a double recipe. So what you're gonna see here is a flaky pie crust, but it's gonna be double the amount. You'd be doing this in half if you were just doing one pie, but I'm making two. So the ingredients are 2.5 cups of flour per pie. So of course it's 5 cups. I kind of aerate my flour. People don't know what that means, so I'll explain it. I kind of just take it through. When you get flour, it kind of gets kind of compressed in the bag, so I aerate it just a little bit. 2. As I make a mess. 4, 5. And I am using an all-purpose unbleached organic flour. This calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. I use organic sugar, so since I'm doubling it, that's 4. It calls for a teaspoon of kosher salt, and I do a heavy teaspoon. I like my food well salted. That's all. Everything is up to your preference. And I do not use this is a pastry cutter, and all I'm doing now is mixing all the dry ingredients together. I do not use a food processor. You can. I think it makes it gummy, and your dough doesn't come out as flaky. It's just personal preference. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't. This calls for 1.5 sticks of butter per pie crust and 1/2 cup of butter Crisco, which I put in the freezer just so that it would be really firm. I'm making this all a day and a half because of the apple process. It has to come all the way down to room temperature, so normally I just do it a day and a half. And so I just basically cut the butter in like little bite-sized pieces. Basically, I'm gonna dump it all in there. And since each recipe calls for 1/2 cup of the butter Crisco, I'm actually going to use this whole thing because I'm making 4 top and bottom. I'm baking 4 crusts for 2 pies. And I'm just doing this so that it won't all be in one area, and you get both of these mixed up kind of good together. Same thing with the butter. Get a little short and get a little butter in each places. And I actually like to see big pieces of this all together. Wash my hands, guys. So this is what they call cutting the butter or shortening into the dough. And you just basically, that's why I use this big bowl here, and you're basically gonna cut all of this in here until it comes to like almost like a pea size, until it becomes like a coarse. It's gonna take a while. So this is probably taken about 10 minutes. This would probably be much easier. Much easier in a food processor. However, I'm not on Food Network and nobody's cleaning my dishes, so I don't like using extra stuff I don't have to use. And like I said, I feel like it makes it a little bit more gummier, and it's just really a personal preference. I don't want to clean that big machine, and I don't like the way that it does. So if you look at it real closely, it kind of looks kind of crumbly, and I would say it starts to almost mush together like that. You can almost put it together. So I have a spoon here, and so now we're gonna add, now it's the water. I'm putting a whole beaten egg, but that's because it's a double crust. You normally be using half an egg, which is approximately 2 tablespoons. So 1 beaten egg, and I'm gonna try to get that drizzled around well. And now we need a half a cup of water, of cold ice water. So I put some ice in water in the refrigerator because I really want it to be very cold. And because the double crust, it calls for half a cup, but I'm gonna pour it in slowly. You don't want to add too much. It's just gonna depend on what it's looking like. So I'm gonna start off with about half of it, and then I'm going to stop after I start getting it all kind of mixed in. And then we're gonna put our hands in here in a minute. I just start that just to get the egg in there. I don't want egg all over my hand, even though it will be, but it'll be more incorporated into the dough by the time I do that. And as the dough starts to form, it'll actually start to kind of come together like a ball. And I'm gonna pour just a little bit more. Cleaning product everywhere. I'm probably going to use the rest of it. When I felt down on the inside of there, it felt like it needed the extra moisture. Once I get this into one good sized ball, and if you could see closely, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, you can actually see like chunks of butter and shortening that you can still see that they're very clearly, I don't know if like you can see there, honey, that's there. It's kind of hard. But as this dough rests, it's going to come together more. And like I said, we're doing this for overnight. So I got it in one nice little ball. So what I'm going to do is I have a knife here. So I'm going to take my knife, cut it in half, cut it in fourths. Now get my saran wrap, try to clean up a little bit, and we'll be right back. So now I'm just forming the little discs. I'm gonna put it in saran wrap, and then tomorrow I'll take it out and I will have crust. Welcome back. Now we're on the apple portion. I have, by the time we get done, we should have about 10 pounds of apples. I'm making 2 pies, remember? So I have Granny Smith, Bayburn, Honeycrisp, Golden Delicious, Gala, and Fuji apples. I like a balance between sweet and tart, so you get a better flavor apple pie when you do that instead of using just one variety. Oh, just some facts. So just yeah, you get a better variety. So I'm just gonna show you one apple that I'm going to do. Basically, I wash the apples. Everybody's hands at the store have been on them. So I personally like to get the cutting board. Sorry. I personally like to, I said use a different variety because I like my flavors to be a little bit more complex. I don't want it all sweet. I don't want it all tart. And some of that's preference. This is gonna be my pot because it's a huge pot, and I know it's like, it looks huge. It is huge. It's huge because we are cooking a lot of apples. So I'm just gonna put some apple juice in here. So as I slice, not apple juice, lemon juice. So as I slice the apples and put them in here, they won't get brown. That's what happens when you cut apples. They begin to get brown. So I'm using the juice of one whole lemon. And what I'm gonna do is as I get the apples in here, I'm just gonna turn it in this juice to keep them from browning. And that's one whole lemon. And you have to look at your apples. If you feel like they're getting too brown, you can add more lemon juice. It's just up to you. So I'm cutting one of the apples. Some people use a vegetable peeler. I grew up without it. So I'm used to cutting with a knife. I find it faster for me. And I'm just getting the skin off, and then we're going to cut it, core it. Demonstrate this. This is a little time consuming, I will say that. But when you eat the pie, it is so worth it. I'm cutting it into quarters, and then you're just gonna take it down that center. The core, if you get right there at the edge, it kind of like goes in a circle. If you pull it up, it usually will pull out kind of by itself, and then you can just trim that part out. Like I said, if you go like this, it kind of lifts up itself, and then I'll just come through with that. The core part of the apple. That's a little far back, but so. And normally I would get like the grocery store bags and put those in there. Now I like a mandolin because I like mine to my apples to have all the same consistency, and I use a cutting glove because I've cut my hands too many times, and this can be painful. Some people can risk it. After you wash them, they get really tight. I think I have this set on 2, so I'll slice it and let's see what we get there. That's about the consistency I want. That's gonna be a nice, thin, tight pie. And the reason why I'm able to go so fast is because I do have this glove on. I'm not worried about getting cut. So that's what I'm gonna do for the rest of those, I think 20 something apples we have there. So I'm gonna take this, and I only cut one at a time so that I'm able to fit for browning. If you went ahead and cut up all the apples and you didn't get them in apple juice, all of your apples would end up being brown. Yeah, I said apple juice twice. If you don't put it in the lemon juice and toss it in there before you go to the next apple, your apples will be brown. So we will be back after I finish cutting up the apples, and we'll show you where we go from there. Well, hello, we're back. It's taken an hour to peel all of these apples. I used a rubber spatula because I don't want to break up the apples. I had 2 sticks of melted butter. We're making 2 pies. I made some brown sugar, which is all you do is take regular sugar and put some molasses in it. I do that because brown sugar tends to go bad in my house. We don't eat a lot of sugar product. And so I'm going to be mixing the brown sugar in with the melted butter. Going to add a cup and a half of regular sugar. This is a tablespoon of salt. This is 2 pies, so a tablespoon of salt. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to cook this. If you were to put this in a regular pie shell, your apples will they're going to reduce quite a bit. When you see what we're going to end up with, you'll be surprised. They'll reduce quite a bit, and so then you'll have a gap between the top layer of the pie if you do that. And apples have a lot of water in them, and it'll make the pie kind of soupy. So this keeps your pie from being soupy. I'm going to put about a tablespoon and almost more than a half, less than a half. Everything is to your taste at this point. I will taste the pie as it cooks, and I will taste the apples as they cook. And if I want to adjust the seasonings, I will. My husband looked at me funny. I said the wrong thing. He said, taste the pie. Taste the apples as they cook. They're going to cook for approximately, maybe, normally if I do one pie, it's like 20-25 minutes. This will probably be 30 to 40 minutes. This is a nutmeg pod. And I'm going to probably put, this is 2 pies, so I normally put a whole pod per pie. Now, seasonings are up to you. I love nutmeg. It's like one of my favorite seasonings ever. It may not be yours. Some people don't care for it. Some people like cardamom, they like clove. I just I like cinnamon and nutmeg. I'll be grinding this for a little bit. Okay, I did 2 pods, and that took a little while. And now I'm adding 10 tablespoons of flour. This is what's going to create a sauce and kind of thicken that up. And so I'm going to mix this all in here until it's kind of incorporated, and then I'm going to put it in the apples. Now, some people don't put butter. There are a lot of people that I know will do this, and theirs will look very dry. They would not have melted butter in theirs. Some people think the butter is overpowering. I happen to not think that way. And what I'm doing is basically when you mix butter and flour, it'll keep the flour keep the flour from lumping. You won't have any clumps because the butter keeps the flour from clumping up and having like little spots. So now we're gonna add this all in here. Pot. We're going to come over here, honey, and we're going to turn this to medium low. And in short, we got to stay close. We're going to stir often. And the apples are going to, as all of this begins to melt, and try to get this worked into the apples kind of all over. And as the apples begin to cook and reduce, this will create a sauce for the apples. Now, at this point, you're going to cook it to your liking. According to Cooks Illustrated, it's not me, I pulled it offline. There is a scientific thing that happens. So let me read the science for you, if you like the science. I didn't put it on this paper. It's on this paper. Okay, so something magical happens. This is from Cooks Illustrated. It's not from me. When you gently cook the apple pie filling over a long period of time, the pectins in the apple is converted to a heat-soluble form. That means when you cook the apples again in the oven, the apples won't become mushy. So whatever level of al dente, when you finish cooking them on the stove, that is how your pie is going to taste. So you can adjust the time to your liking. So in other words, however you cook these apples to the level of either tenderness or even having a bite to it, that's the same way it will be when you put it in your pie and cook your pie. It's just something that happens with the pectin and when you do it this way. So we will come back in probably 45 minutes. We'll get back in about 45 minutes and I'll show you what this end product will be like. We're going to cook it, and then all we're going to do is cool it, and then tomorrow everything will be ready for me to assemble the pie. Thank you guys for watching. Flip some apples. Now I've coated all the apples. As you can see, they're all coated. And now I'm just going to leave this on medium high and put the top on, and then I will stir it maybe every 4 to 5 minutes as I look at it and see if it needs to be stirred. Okay, on Friday, we started apple pie. It's Sunday morning. I made the one pie for the friend and I took that to them. And now I am prepping the pie crust for our pie pan. And this was a crust and a little bit of what was left over. I made a deep dish one for the last one. And this one, some people use all that fancy stuff. I don't have any of that fancy stuff there. It's called I think it's a pie fabric. I don't have one of those. And you can do parchment paper, but this is the way I learned how to do it. So just gonna go ahead and roll this out and get the apple pie done. All I'm doing is turning it so that I keep it, first of all, moving, and that I keep it in a circle. And you can do that by going from the sides, but I'm mostly moving it around because I hate when it sticks and then it's so hard to get up. And this right here is just gonna be for my bottom crust. Rule of thumb is you work center, you work out, and you should end up with a circle. Should, operative word. I don't know what I got right now. Okay, good point. When I tried to put the two crusts together, I had a little bit of cracking. If your dough is too sticky, then you can add more flour. If your dough is cracking, it means you need a little bit more ice water. So I actually put a little bit more ice water and I stuck it back in the freezer for a little bit because the dough was just a little bit dry. It's coming up. So that looks about good. I'm eyeballing it. Yeah, so it's gonna go into an oven for 425 for the first 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna take it down to 350 after that. So this is my dish. You can see I folded over my dough because it's too hard to pick up a whole piece of dough. For me, it's easier to put it in the forks like this and to bring it out the other way. And now that end just cracked right there. See that? It all cracked. But it's okay. Dough can be pressed back together, thank the Lord. Now, just sitting it in there and getting it all the way to the edges. And as you see, I have like a little space there. I'm going to take that little dough that's left over, and all you have to do is push it back in there. That doesn't have like a little edge to it. And I'm going to want an edge to it. Doing two things at once. Stir your pasta so it won't stick. You won't have a big clump. Kitchen scissors. That's pretty much it. We're going to fill it and put the top crust on, and then we'll come back and show you guys what the finished product looks like. So after I let all the pie filling cool, I put it in the refrigerator. So it's just sitting in the refrigerator, and obviously I made more than 2 pies. By the way, because I had so many more apples, I had to go back in and re-sweeten it and add a little bit more sugar and butter because I ended up with way more than 10 pounds of apples. But that's okay because this can be frozen and you can have a pie for another time, which is what I wanted. So I have an event in a couple of weeks and I will be making an apple pie. So if I have to do it once, my motto is you might as well do it twice. There's no need of you redoing all this work if you can make 3 pies with the same amount of effort. So that's basically what I did. And all I'm going to do is fill this pie, and then I'm going to put a top crust on, and then we're going to put it in the oven. And I should have, if I'm correct, I should have another one for another whole pie when I get done. So in essence, I made enough filling for 3 pies. And just kind of to the top. I don't want it to ooze over. Put it too full. If you dome it, it will ooze out and it'll mess up your whole entire pan. I have a prepared cookie sheet with the piece of parchment paper on it. That's gonna go in the oven because I don't want my oven messed up and I don't like my sheet pans messed up. And then all I do is put the top crust and then that'll go in the oven. Start on top crust if you just, oh, my husband's gonna film this. So now we're doing the same thing. This is the top crust. We're gonna take that out of the oven. I took it out of the refrigerator a little bit. And as you can see, I see a little bit of cracking there. So I'm gonna stop and grab some cold water. And I have cold water in my refrigerator. So because of that, I can see that it's a little cracked. See how it's cracking? It should be coming together. And if you pull it together like this and you still see a certain amount of cracking, you're just gonna add, I'll put over the refrigerator, over this. Just add a couple of dribbles of water. So all I did was add a couple of dribbles of water, not a lot. And that will help that dough come back together. I made a double crust, and sometimes, double the flour. Maybe the flour I didn't, aerate it enough and it was heavier. So we're gonna stop for a minute because I'm gonna actually let the dough back rest and put it back in the freezer for a little bit. We were in Oregon. Sort of what? I got this new style roller. I think it's called a French roller. Anyway, I've always wanted one. I didn't want to pay for one, but we went to that one wood shop, remember, for the wood that was there. And I was like, you'll use it, so get it. So I do love it. It doesn't have a normal rolling pin would have those ends on them, and so I find that this is very easy to work with. So I'm pretty excited about that. Concerned about this dough sticking. So. Come out this way. Okay, that looks like that'll probably fit. Fold over the dough. That's just so it's easier to put on there. It won't take me. Be able to put that on there now. Cleaning up, nothing special there. What? Yeah, no, I can't do more. You gotta count those calories. Too far over. I did not do that well. So now I've got to gently pull this back. Then. That's it. And I'm not into, and it's not wrong or right. Some people spend time and decorate the outsides of the pie and do all that. I'm a rustic chick. No fancy leaves. They're beautiful, time consuming. I'm an eater. But if you want to do all that, go ahead. I applaud you. Some people would fold it all over and make a really thick border. I don't think my husband really likes that. Yeah, he doesn't really care about all that extra crust. So in my family, so I'm kind of just folding it over to the other crust that came all the way up to the edge of that flute there and kind of crimping them together. And I know how to do the edges if I needed to. where you stick your finger in, and I may do a little bit. We'll see. It's easy for me to work from that side, so that's why I'm turning the pie. Extras, you can obviously take those and put cinnamon sugar on them. Most importantly, vents. You need to vent the pie so that the steam will rise out of it. I had a natural crack here, so I just went ahead and worked with it instead of worked against it. So 425, 15 minutes. I'm gonna pull it down to, gonna pull it down to 350, and it's gonna go for another hour and 10. I'm gonna do 15 minutes, and then I'll move it to 350 in an hour and 15 minutes, and it'll go an hour and 10 minutes. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. I probably overfilled it a little bit. I have a lot of seepage, but it should be fine.